Hi everyone, it's Stephanie here with a video from My Favorite Things. In today's video, we're going to be recreating a card that was designed by design team member Torico using new products from the June 2017 release. We're going to be using the Party Like a Pirate stamp set for the main scene on our card, but before we get to that, we want to create our card base. So I'm going to be using the cloud stencil, and I'm going to add some cloud detail to the top area of this white card base so that we have a really fun sky scene on our card. Creating a bunch of different clouds on your card design is really easy with this stencil. You simply just kind of move it around and you can kind of change the direction that you have the stencil going to give different variations. And you just use an ink blending tool with some light blue ink and kind of pull the color from the top of the stencil out, and it's going to give you that cool design that's on each edge of the cloud stencil. So now that I have all the clouds on my card base, I'm going to go ahead and start to work on the pieces that we're going to use to create our scene. So I have the Beach Scene Builder Die-namics die set, and we're going to cut out a bunch of components from this die set to add to our card design. So the first piece I have here is what creates the water in the sand. So I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine, and I have a bunch of different cardstock pieces already pulled out for all of the different pieces. So for the sand and water, I'm going to use Latte and Berrylicious cardstock colors, and you can kind of go either direction with this. If you want to have more sand than water, you can put the larger area on the bottom, and if you want to have more water than sand, you can put the large area on the top. So it's just kind of personal preference. I decided to stay with the same design that Torico used and keep the sand, the smaller area, on the bottom. So I have a little bit of ink here and an ink blending tool, and I'm adding a tiny bit of ink to both of these pieces just to give a little bit of shading and dimension to them before I adhere them to the card base. Now, before I do any adhering of those two panels, I want to do a little bit of stamping on this water piece here. I want to add some waves. So I'm using the Seaside Seagull stamp set, and I'm using the wave stamp, and there's also wave dynamics in the coordinating dynamics die set. So I'm first going to stamp some of those waves onto the water piece here using Versamark ink, and I'm going to heat emboss all these waves with white embossing powder. This is just going to give a fun look to our water area and just add a little bit more detail to the whole finished design. Now, to create the little wave that we're going to use to tuck the ship in, I used the little die cut piece and die cut that from the large area in the water. And then to do the wave detail on this, rather than use the stamp, I didn't want to mess up the stamping since we had already done so much detail to this. So I just wanted to show another option that you can use a white gel pen as well and just kind of trace underneath of those die cut waves to add that wave detail. And then I also added a little bit of dot design like Torico did in her water, and now I'm going to go ahead and die cut all the rest of the pieces that we need. So I used Limelight green cardstock to cut out the top of the palm tree, and then I used Safety orange cardstock for the tree trunk, and then some milk chocolate cardstock for the little coconuts that are going to go in the center of the tree. I do want to add a little bit of shading to the center of the palm tree as well, so I did use some green ink on an ink blending tool and added a little bit of color to that piece before adding everything to the card. So now that I have all the pieces done, I'm just using my regular tape adhesive and I'm just adding all of the components on. I'm starting with the sand and water since they form the base of the scene, and now you can see once I have them adhered, we have this really cool cloud sky kind of peeking out from behind. I'm adding the palm tree on next, and I'm starting with the tree trunk and then the base of the palm tree. And then I'm adding on the accessory leaves that go over top, and this is going to give it some really nice dimension and a little bit of variation in color. To finish off the tree, I'm going to add the coconuts to the center, and I'm just using some liquid adhesive to do that since they're very tiny. And then I'm going to add a little bit of detail to those coconuts with a white gel pen just for a little bit of added highlight. So once I have that done, all of the pieces for our scene are completed and we need to do all of our stamping. So I have the Party Like a Pirate stamp set, and I picked out all of the images that Torico used on her card, and I'm stamping them onto a white cardstock panel with black licorice hybrid ink so that I can use Copic colors to do all of my coloring. So I'm just going to go ahead and double stamp this so I get a really nice black impression, and then I'm going to remove this and start to add color with all of my markers. I am going to just play some music while I do the coloring because I did leave it all in, and then once I have the coloring done, I will be back with you to finish the rest of the card. So now that we have all of the images colored, I die cut them all with the coordinating dynamics, and now I'm going to assemble them all onto the scene of the card. So I have a regular tape runner adhesive, and I'm just kind of adhering everything directly onto the card. I'm putting the little ship into the wave detail that we created there, and then I'm just layering the rest of the components until I have the scene completely finished. I'm going to do some stamping in the sky area using cement gray ink. I'm going to stamp the little bird image just to kind of give a bunch of little birds kind of flying through the sky. And then I'm also going to stamp the sentiment into the open area of the sky that we've left. I'm going to use black licorice dyeing to do this stamping, and then that is going to finish our card today. So a huge thank you to Torico for such a fun card design. I really love this stamp set, and I love this little scene that we created. I had a lot of fun creating this card, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.